Denis Villeneuve's version of Frank Herbert's Dune was much more true to the book than David Lynch's film of the same name from 1984. This was helped by splitting the long book into two parts. As a result, both audiences and reviews liked the movie a lot more. Still, Villeneuve made some changes that were needed to make an interesting movie version, like taking out some scenes, minor characters, and information about the world. This video has comparisons only from the first part of the story. The Gom Jabbar scene. Even though this scene in Villeneuve's version is almost exactly the same as in Herbert's book, with the same lines of conversation, the main difference is where it comes in the story. The first half hour of the 2021 movie, Dune, builds up to this scene, but the book starts with the Reverend Mother of the Bene Gesserit landing on Caladan. It's easy to see why this scene was moved to later in the story, since the world of Dune has so many ideas to introduce to people who are just starting to read the Dune trilogy. Overall, it's a small change, but it's a big change from how the book is put together. The Chaume Company. The Chaume Company, which stands for Combine Honnête Ober Advancer Mercantiles, is an important part of Dune's spice business. The firm is run by the Padishah Emperor and the greater houses of the empire. The Bene Gesserit are also partners in the deal, but they don't say anything. One of the less obvious changes to the story is the removal of the company. Its role in the early plot of Dune is still not clear. Like the Emperors, Chaume's power works behind the scenes. Even though there's no business in Villeneuve's Dune Part 1, there's still hope that it will play a bigger role in Dune Part 2. Leto smells a trap. One small change from the book is that Leto's character has been changed to make him much smarter than he is in the book. Leto knew that Arrakis was a trap for House Atreides before he left Caladan, but he wants to beat his enemies by getting the Fremen to help him. Even though Leto ends up in the same place as in the movie, the fact that he knows things might have turned out differently if he hadn't been so careless makes his death more sad. This character is hinted at in the movie when Leto says to Jessica, "I thought we'd have more time." But it's clear that this was changed to make a character who was already complicated even more simple. The Sardaukar backstory. Even though the movie shows hints of Sardaukars' past and their home planet, Salusa Secundus, it leaves out important facts about the fighters that help define them. In a conversation early in the book, Paul and Leto Atreides talk about how the Sardaukar are the most powerful warriors in the universe because they had to deal with harsh weather on their homeworld. Leto figures out that the only people who can beat the Sardaukar are the Fremen because Arrakis is just as bad as Salusa Secundus. Even though there are likely to be more fights between the Fremen and the Sardaukar in the next movie, this is an important part that was left out for some reason. Dr. Liet Kynes. The part of Dr. Liet Kynes, a planetologist, is also different in the Dune 2021 movie. In addition to making Kynes a woman by casting Sharon Duncan Brewster, the character's death in the movie is also changed in a big way. Herbert's version of the story is much less dramatic. The Harkonnen leave him in the spice fields without a still suit to die of heat exhaustion, where he dies slowly and painfully. In the movie, the story is much more important, and Kynes gives her life so that Paul and Jessica can live. Kynes turns on a thumper to attract a sandworm, which kills her and the Sardaukar forces around her in a much more spectacular way. Princess Irulan. Even though she's likely to be in the sequel to Villeneuve's Dune, parts of the book are based on Irulan's work about the past of Arrakis and Paul's rise to power. These parts come from in-world books like the Manual of the Muad'Dib or A Child's History of the Muad'Dib, which describe Paul as a person who will become famous all over the universe before the reader meets him. This method, on the other hand, works better in writing than in movies, and it'd be hard to include it in a movie version of Dune. Still, these parts are important to the story's themes of sorrow and fate, since things like the death of Duke Leto are shown in advance. Jessica and Dr. Yueh. One important scene from the book that was cut out happened between Jessica and Dr. Yueh, while Jessica was trying to figure out who the Harkonnen spy in Leto Atreides' inner group was. It's hard to describe this scene because so much of the drama is told through internal voiceover, and even though Lady Jessica is a smart and skilled heroine, Yueh still tricks her. In a strange way, she believes him because Yueh told her that the Harkonnen hurt his family. Instead, this is what makes Yueh want to abandon House Atreides so he can get closer to Baron Harkonnen and get his own back. Paul's visions. Even though Paul still has a lot of visions in the book, a lot more of them will be shown in the 2021 version. This could be done in part to get people excited about the upcoming Dune Part 2, with Paul's dreams giving characters like Zendaya's Chani more screen time. But the fact that Paul is having more and more of these dreams may also show that he can see more than one possible future. It's an idea that he's talked about in the book, but it's shown in an odd way. This is clear from the dreams Paul had about Jarmis before he met him. Paul thinks that Jarmis will be a good friend and help him through the desert, but when they finally meet, they fight and Paul kills Jarmis. The influence of Islam. Even though the movie uses Arabic words and phrases, Islam has almost no effect on Dune society in the way it's shown now. This is without a doubt one of the most disliked changes from the book. Even though Dune takes place over 10,000 years in the future, people's religions are still very different from what they seem to be today. The 2021 movie avoids the Islamic ideas and words from the book. In the book, Paul says that his fate is a jihad that will spread all over the world. In Villeneuve's movie, it's called a holy war. The banquet scene. Both the Villeneuve and Lynch versions leave out one of Herbert's most famous scenes. This chapter is one of the longest and most in-depth ones in the book because it talks about Arrakis's government problems. Duke Leto wants to get rid of an Arrakeen tradition in which Harkonnen guests wash their hands and then throw their wet towels on the floor, leaving the servants to sell the water to beggars. Later, the story focuses on a fight between the Atreides and a guild banker who's thought to be a Harkonnen spy. His character was taken out of the book entirely. Even though these details add to the complexity of the book's world, it's easy to see why the scene was cut because the film's story is already complicated. Thanks for watching this video.